Hey, it's Jack Gately. Jack Gately. Well, let's just start this over again. What an awful start. I know I haven't live streamed for a couple of days. Hey, it's Jack from the Online Real Estate Academy and the Jack Gately Real Estate Company. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just stumbled that opening, didn't I? It was awful. I know. I guess that's what happens when you don't live stream for a week. You just kind of get out of the the thing. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to do a live stream this week to bring you up to date on real estate news, especially the lawsuits that are pending, because there's been a significant amount of legal activity during this holiday week. And I didn't think I'd be making a video this week, but there's been a number of developments which I thought required us to document. So I'm happy to be here today. It is Saturday, just about 12:30 on December 30th. So happy New Year. New Year is just right around the corner. Of course, we have New Year's Eve tomorrow night and Monday, New Year's Day. There's a lot of college football to be watched. I was just informed by my son who's downstairs. He's home for the holiday, that there's a significant amount of football to be watched. And apparently there's going to be a lot of football to be watched tomorrow too. 10 NFL. There's a lot of football and parades. I do like the parade. Maybe I'll watch that. So, and probably a little football. Although the New England Patriots are nothing to watch this year for sure. So happy New Year. Thank you so much for supporting this channel over the 2023 year. And our daily show that we were doing for about 6 or 7 weeks, that was quite an experiment. I really enjoyed it. We've got to continue to post here. I'm not quite sure what the schedule will be, but right now we're just kind of as the news develops. And let's get into the news for now. So over the week here, we've had another lawsuit. Yep, you need a spreadsheet. It's kind of like that Bob Dylan song, you know, everyone must get stoned. It's kind of like everyone must get sued, right? Everybody must get sued. So we've had another lawsuit. Let's see if we can bring that up here. It's out of Maryland, and I do believe it also covers Ohio as well. So this guy's name, the lead plaintiff in this case, is Umpa. Oompa Loompa, like from the Willy Wonka kind of. Daniel Umpa filed a case Wednesday in the United States District Court. And he is once again targeting the requirement that he had to pay a buyer side fee. Here is, I think the case specifically takes issue with the practice of the sellers offering a broker compensation to buyers brokers, something known as the cooperative compensation rule or participation rule. So it's basically the same type of lawsuit that we've had before. And it's just, another day, another lawsuit. Everyone must get sued. It's not a huge development. On any other year, it would be a huge development. But now it's just another entry on the spreadsheet, right? So you would expect that next month, which is just around the corner, right? Starts Tuesday? This is the first business day of the year. You would expect that next year there's going to be even more so-called copycat lawsuits coming, right? This whole verdict in Kansas City has unleashed a storm of you know what. And if you think it's hit the fan now, I think they're just turning on the fan. Right. The storm has just started to brew is kind of my feeling about it. On the other hand, I think it's going to be a really long time before any of this gets settled. I don't think we're going to come, first week in January. I don't think anyone's going to come out and say, okay, we have the solution and this is all going to be resolved. No, I don't see that happening like anytime soon. In fact, if you look at the NAR strategy, the NAR strategy is to string this out for as long as possible. We've already had them argue in the otherwise bombshell lawsuit. There's so many now, it's hard to keep track. But the Morrell lawsuit was going to go trial in the spring of 2024, and that's been put off at least to Q4 of 2024, and NAR didn't want to actually argue it until 2025. So there is an effort by NAR, as the Real Estate News puts it, to herd the copycat lawsuits. Lawyers in Missouri are making the case for a copycat consolidation. Now, that's actually might not be a bad idea to kind of put everything under one umbrella, Dave Gallagher, Real Estate News. As 2023 comes to a close, yet another commission case has been filed in district court, adding to the list. We're up to like 10, 12 of these lawsuits at this point. And along with the new complaint, lawyers in the Umpa and Gibson cases filed separate brief with the U.S. Judicial Panel on Multi-District Litigation, requesting that two cases be consolidated with 7 other copycat lawsuits filed in different districts and to be tried in the Western District of Missouri before Judge Bowe. So what they're basically trying to do here is bring everything before the judge who heard the Stitzer-Burnett case in Kansas City, to basically make it into one law. And so I guess that could be the start of some type of universal resolution to this whole quagmire thing, which I think would hopefully benefit everybody, right? Otherwise you're on some type of like perpetual treadmill of lawsuit after lawsuit. It would be better to get some type of universal global settlement in one way or the other. That's why I think they call this the U.S. Judicial Panel on Multi-District Litigation, a title only a lawyer could love. And Happy New Year, all my lawyer friends. I love you so much. And there it is. So apparently that's probably the job of the Judicial Panel on Multi-District Litigation, is to kind of take all these various lawsuits throughout the country and put them into one courtroom, so to speak. So that's the strategy there. We've already heard the details of the Umpa case, basically sinking here. But the defendants, the National Association of Realtors, and more than a dozen other brokerages are named as defendants. The brokerages, as you know, are many more. Several local realtor associations and MLSs are listed as co-conspirators. You know the story, as basically everyone must get sued. So NAR has come along and said something very interesting relative to the first copycat lawsuit, which was filed. That was known as Gibson. So you might remember that right after the Kansas City decision, what was that, October 31st? Halloween. That was Halloween, right? And right after that, like the day after, there was this first copycat lawsuit filed, and that was called Gibson. And now NAR is asking for a complete delay in Gibson. And this just fits in with their strategy overall, which is to delay. Attorneys for NAR requested a stay in the Gibson case with a filing that seems to signal a shift in strategy. Wait till you hear about this signal or this shift in strategy. So basically they're saying, hey, Judge, you should put off the whole Gibson case until we resolve this Stitzer-Burnett deal. Okay, so what is the strategy? Well, basically, and this is just like, I can't even imagine it. I almost feel that when I read this to you, I got to have this wrong, is the way I'm thinking about it. But you tell me, do I have this right? Because this does seem like a complete and absolute flip-flop. Maybe I'm wrong. This comes under the heading at Real Estate News is NAR changing tactics. The filing provided some insight into NAR's legal strategy going forward. In its motion, the association argued that the plaintiffs, who are the home sellers, were indirect purchasers of buyer agent services, which under antitrust law would mean the sellers were not actually the damaged party. That's an interesting concept, because they didn't actually make that argument in the Stitzer-Burnett trial. They didn't make that argument. In fact, Ed Zorn, who's the chief legal counsel for the California Regional MLS, suggested that the indirect purchaser argument as a possible winning approach for NAR. If NAR can prove the buyer is the one paying the fee, sellers lose. Now, wait a second here. Hasn't it always been NAR's position that the seller pays the fee? Isn't that the whole thing? Isn't that the essence of the rule itself, that the seller pays the fee? Or am I missing something? Am I missing something? And I don't mean to be facetious. Well, halfway facetious. But isn't this the complete inverse of the argument they've been making for years? Just check me if I'm wrong. I'm going to bring up the comment tab just in case anybody writes in a comment. I'd love to hear your comments. Thank you so much for watching on a Saturday, by the way. This argument has not been an essential part of NAR's case during the Stitzer-Burnett trial. So hasn't that been the exact opposite argument, that the seller does pay the fee? Now they're going to argue that the seller doesn't pay the fee. I'm so confused. Maybe because that none of the arguments going forward from here have anything to do with the merits of the policy, or have anything to do with what might be good for buyers or good for sellers or good for agents or a good public policy outcome writ large. Maybe the legal arguments have nothing to do with those things going forward. Maybe the legal arguments have everything to do with whatever argument will win, regardless of the merits of the public policy, regardless of the policy. We just want to win. In other words, all of the principle is out of it, and now it's just a bare knuckles legal battle where screw the principle. We just don't want to pay $5 billion or whatever the number is in settlement. That's kind of what I'm thinking it might be. But, I hold the legal profession in such high regard that I must be wrong about that. I can't possibly imagine I'm right about that. I can't be right. If successful, NAR's appeal on these and other issues will result in a binding appellate decision that eliminates Gibson in its entirety, or at a minimum significantly impacts the scope of the discovery. So, yeah, that's an interesting case. Maybe I'm completely wrong. We have a comment here. William Caddy. Hey, William, thanks for joining us on a Saturday. Happy New Year to you. I am right. It's a complete flip-flop. Yeah, you know what, Will? I knew I was right. Thank you so much, by the way. Thank you. I thought I was. Well, you've confirmed it is a complete flip-flop. I thought so. I just wasn't sure. So, filed the next story under complete irony. Zillow, get this. Everyone must get sued. I can hear the Bob Dylan song now. Everyone must get stoned. Zillow is now suing, claiming that they are a victim of an antitrust practice. I mean, I'm not even joking when I laugh. I'm literally laughing out loud when I read this story. Zillow is now claiming that they are a victim of an antitrust practice. Let's bring up this story. This is just hilarious. Zillow is suing a couple of MLSs, Arizona and somewhere else, doesn't matter where, claiming that they have engaged in an anti-competitive practice by limiting the member access to showing time. So you might know that showing time is a major platform to arrange for showings. I don't happen to use showing time myself, but I know that many of you have, and certainly I've used it as a buyer's agent to request a showing time. It's pretty simple, a very widespread service. And anyways, Zillow purchased showing time a while back, and now they're in a situation where a couple of MLSs have developed their own proprietary showing time service. So they don't call it showing time, but whatever the hell they call it, doesn't really matter. And so in their MLSs, they've embedded this functionality to request a showing. Instead of using the showing time app, they've now had their own proprietary functionality for that. And now Zillow is claiming that that's an antitrust violation because they're not allowing Zillow to have / showing time to have the option. They're not allowing the end user, which would be agents requesting a showing and agents setting up. They're not allowing the user inside of the MLS to use the Showing Time app. They're using their proprietary functionality. And I know the irony. This does have an echo to me of the browser wars in the 1990s. Some of you are way too young for this, but back in the 1990s, the Department of Justice sued Microsoft in this famous case, claiming that Microsoft was building the computer and also building the software. You might remember this, and maybe you learned it in college or something. And they were shipping computers with only one browser, which at that time was known as Microsoft Explorer, to the detriment of what were the browsers at the time? Netscape or something like that. And yeah, I think it was Netscape and other browsers. And therefore, Microsoft was using its power to basically own the operating system and the software that shipped with it using only one browser. So big, huge lawsuit. This kind of echoes that lawsuit in a way, because basically they're saying you can't have an MLS and have your own proprietary booking system. MLS, antitrust law is so complex that I'm not going to go out on a limb and say whether or not this is fair or not. To me, my gut reaction is it's a functionality. And why does Zillow have an inherent right to be part of an MLS system? That's just my kind of gut reaction. What does the suit allege? One of the functions the MLS aligned is to develop products for agents to partner with the MLS. The suit targets one of the network's specific products, aligned showings, which was initially offered alongside Showing Time. Zillow Group alleges that rather than competing on the merits, MLS Aligned and its members conspired to remove the Showing Time integration and create a monopoly in their regions for the Showing Time, for the proprietary functionality. So they had Showing Time as an option, and then they deleted that, and then that got Zillow upset, basically. But it is rich because a lot of you might consider Showing Time to be, how do I want to say this? Excuse me, a lot of you might consider Zillow to be a monopoly in and of itself. In fact, it was not that long ago that Zillow was successful in knocking down a case along with the National Association where Rex Realty, remember that case? It was just earlier this year where Rex Real Estate or Real Estate Exchange sued Zillow for an antitrust exemption because Zillow was listing everything that was MLS on one tab, which was the primary tab, the default tab, and then that was on an MLS. And if it was a non-MLS listing, you had to click a different tab to get those non-MLS listings. And so they won that suit. So I could almost see that one of the solutions for these MLSs would be to have a tab that defaults to their proprietary functionality, but then have another tab which is difficult to find, right? Play the same game Zillow played. Make another tab which is difficult to find. It's really small print and said other functionalities, other showing time, other showing options. Make it really small. Play Zillow's own game. And win on the same basis that they win that lawsuit. That's just the way I would look at it. Mortgage rates, they're falling, but not nearly nearly as falling. We're currently looking at about a 280-point spread. That is the spread between the 10-year, and the 10-year today is being quoted at 3.866, and the actual rate. So if you take 3.866 and you add about 280 points, you get today's rate, which is about 6.67. Surprisingly, that's just a teeny bit higher than it was at the beginning of the year. So if you go back a year ago, we were at 6.5, and then we had that big run up, which peaked in October, and now we're back basically to where we were a year ago. Yeah, so you can see the kind of the trend there, and the big drop. I mean, there's a big drop over a relatively small period from the middle of October to the end of December. We've been relatively flat for the last several since basically the 20th, the 18th, we were relatively flat. Yeah, so that's where mortgage rates are. I personally think that mortgage rates are going to go back up and the 10-year is going to go back up. But, you know, what do I know? I'm just a knucklehead, a real estate broker who figured out how to stream on YouTube. But that's where we are currently with rates. The thing is, if rates continue to go down, right, a lot of you are going to say, oh, that means people will sell. Yes, it would probably mean more transactions, which I'm probably, if you're a real estate broker or agent right now, you're probably like, yes, let's move the total number of transactions up because, you know, there's not a lot of transactions and we make money on transactions. Go. But I don't know if that's really going to solve the affordability problem because as rates go down, I think prices will go up. That's just my guess right now. So let's see here. Let's bring up another comment by William. Isn't it also an antitrust violation if Zillow gets MLS data, resells site leads to agents, and then sells them showing time service? Sounds like a monopoly. Yes, William, that does sound like a monopoly. You know, everyone must get sued, Will. So it's a Saturday. So on Tuesday, call your lawyer, and maybe that would be quite a class action suit. All the agents versus Zillow. All the agents versus Zillow. That would be quite a lawsuit. By the way, I talk about class action suits. You might remember that I got my check in the mail for $3.31 or whatever it was. I am now apparently part of another class action lawsuit. Although this, I'm not sure if this is a scam or not, but this is my court-approved claim form. This kind of sounds scammy. I am now eligible for my share of a $5.5 billion settlement because I processed credit card payments. As the owner of the real estate school, I accept credit card payments. And they're going to be giving me my share, which is probably like $3 again. You know, these classic action lawsuits. So, Bill, William Caddy, yeah, call your agent. That would be a big, call your lawyer on Tuesday. See if we can file a class action lawsuit against Zillow. Why not? Everyone jump in. Should I get my real estate license? You tricked me. I'm not sure what that means, Brian. I'm sorry if I tricked you. Here's the answer. None of this matters in the short term. And in the end, there'll still be real estate agents, right? There's still going to be real estate agents to market your property. What I've been saying effectively, Brian, the number one lesson that we should all be taking home from this whole lawsuit situation is you should be targeting sellers with your marketing efforts. If you're out there getting buyer leads, you need to change what you are doing. And it will be a transition period from marketing to buyers to marketing to sellers, and you should start as soon as possible. So, Brian, if you're trying to get into the business or thinking about doing it, jump in. The water's fine. Just remember that any marketing you should do should focus on sellers. Buyer agency as a thing may or may not exist in the future, but I know that seller agency will exist in the future. So do some marketing towards sellers. So, for instance, if you're a current agent and you have a YouTube channel, let's just say, and you're telling people, welcome to Spokane, and you're getting people from all over the country who want to move to Spokane, and they're buyer leads, you're going to want to rethink that marketing strategy. If you are somehow buying ads on Zillow and you're getting buyer leads from Zillow, you probably want to rethink that marketing strategy. You want to start to create relationships and marketing for sellers, And would this have some downward pressure on commissions? I think eventually, yes, I think it will have downward pressure on commissions, but you can, let me just throw this out here. I heard this analogy. I'd love to give the credit, but it's slipping my mind at the moment. Would you rather have 20 seller clients or 20 buyer clients? I'd rather actually have 5 seller clients than 20. Buyer clients take up an amazing amount of time, and it's really hard to scale for buyer clients. But for seller clients, you can scale, and so I just think working with sellers has always been the better business model. And to use a cliche, now more than ever, it is even a better business model, working with sellers. And even if the commissions get flattened, if you're able to kind of figure this all out before everybody else, before the herd figures it out, by using some of the advice that I just gave you, and advice from others as well, but working with sellers, I think you'll be way ahead of the game and can still make plenty of money. What's going to happen is the lazy people are going to get washed out, right? The people who don't want to change, they're going to get washed out. The people who only market to buyers, they're going to get washed out. And those of us who are smart enough to realize that you want to be focusing, we'll probably make more money than ever. So, yeah, I still think there's huge opportunity in the industry, Brian. Great question. Let's see here. Next comment. William, first thing, I'll call my lawyer on Tuesday. Thanks for being a good short, William. I agree with you what you're telling, Brian. You can work with unlimited sellers at once, but not unlimited buyers at once. Yeah, so there's a huge opportunity working with sellers. It's scalable. Much more than buyers. Like how many houses could you actually show? You're gonna drive around town, show how. It's very time consuming. But most of what you do with sellers, or a much higher percentage of what you do with sellers, is virtual, right? I mean, there is the going to the property multiple times. We understand that, but there's a higher percentage of it that you can do offsite, as buyers are more hand to hand. Yeah. So good point. All right. So, hey, I really enjoyed this, and sorry with the false start when the start of the video, but I guess what I'm going to try to say is Happy New Year. Happy New Year. We'll see you next week, which will be 2024. It's going to be an exciting year. Happy New Year to you, and see you then. Thanks so much for watching today. Thank you for all your comments. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Go make some money.